Hey everybody, welcome back to Chortle Cast. I'm one of your hosts, Jake, and with me as always, the Stream King, the Far Cry guy, and the Outrider, Steven. What's up, buddy?
It's me. I woke up my character on this game when you said my name. So he was in bed and then he was like, what? And then he jumped out.
What?
Hey.
I'm glad you're here, buddy. And I'm glad I was able to wake you up because I was actually taking a nap before we started the podcast. So
I would have loved to have been taking a nap, but we had to play with the dogs. And dinner or lunch took forever to get. So by the time I got free, it was 1:15. It was like, I
understand.
I can't take a nap in that amount of time.
You never know, do you? It's always a rough choice when it's like, should I take a nap? Because you're going to be exhausted when you wake back up. You know what I mean? A nap is never long enough.
It's true.
So it's a rough time.
It's always either way too short or way too long. Either way, you feel like garbage afterward.
It really is. It really is.
Because like if you take a really long nap, it's just like, where have I been? What year is it?
How long have I been asleep? Ladies and gentlemen, maybe you've been asleep the 31 years like in Outriders. You never know.
A lot of Outriders in the podcast today. I'm excited.
I'm telling you, we're going to be talking all about Outriders because this is Chortle Cast, the official podcast of Chortle Games, where we talk about video games, TV shows, movies, anime, whatever the heck we want to talk about. We got a great show for you this week. Of course, we are going to be talking all about the Outriders demo, which came out this week. Steven has played a lot of it. I have played a little bit of it. You can
I've played a whole heckin' lot of it.
Steven's played a whole heckin' lot. You are a legendary at this point.
Yeah, I am.
You can watch all of my experience on the live stream that we did Saturday night on chortlegames.com. So be sure to go check that out if you want to see. But of course, it's a free demo, so if you want to try it out for yourselves, feel free to. But we're going to talk all about that. We're going to talk about the state of play that Sony had earlier this week. And then we're going to talk about the Nintendo Present that happened this week with some exciting news. And then we will, of course, end the show with our Wanda Watch. And we'll talk a little bit. Weekly Wanda Watch. We'll talk all about what we think's happening in the show. But, of course, we'll give you lots of warning on that one so we don't spoil anything for you. But before we talk about any of that, we must first open with the sad news that...
Look at the obituary for the week.
The obituary for the week. What game is officially dead? And I'm sorry to report, folks, that Anthem is officially over. The folks at EA finally put it to bed, put it to rest. There is no more Anthem. They've been working on what we I don't even know if it was an official name, the Anthem Next update, but that's kind of what we've been calling it, right? Yeah. Similar to how No Man's Sky had their great No Man's Sky Next update that kind of fixed the game and brought a lot of people back.
I've heard Anthem Next, Anthem 2.0. One of those was the actual term, but I can't remember which one it was.
Well, doesn't matter. Whatever you called it, it's not happening. So EA finally put that to bed.
You say put to rest as if it's at peace or that people are at peace. What EA/BioWare did was they choked it with a pillow.
They just, while it was sleeping, they just kind of slowly put that pillow on top and didn't let up.
Right. Basically.
So, Steven, you, I think we're always a pretty strong Anthem supporter. I think we both were very excited about it once it came out. I had pretty much, I don't know that given up on it is the right word, but like I was not as enthused once I had kind of gotten going, like once we kind of saw what was there and what was happening, I had kind of given up on it at that point. But you had a lot of hopes that it would eventually come back and really shine.
To me, it was one of those games where like there was definitely promise. The fundamentals were there. No one can argue that the gameplay loop was solid. It felt great to fly around. The shooting was pretty good. The skills they made you feel powerful. The javelins were interesting. Like there was the core fundamentals were great. And that's the hard part. And so like, to me, it was like, there were times where I would just be like, I want to go play some Anthem. Like there's not any new content for me to do, but sometimes I just wanted to fly around as a javelin and feel powerful and fight these big monsters or whatever. And that was great. And to me, it was like, Anthem has a content problem right now. It has a longevity issue, but it can be something great. And EA had said, yeah, we're committed to Anthem and we're going to make it something great.
Right.
And it was like, cool. Just take as much time in the oven as you need. I'll be here. I haven't played it in quite a while, but I've been here just soaking up every bit of updates that they've given, and the stuff that they had talked about sounded awesome. It sounded fan-friggin-tastic. And quite frankly, EA owed us.
Right.
They owed everyone that spent $60 on that game, because EA set that game up to fail.
Right.
BioWare didn't do it many favors, but EA definitely was the one who doomed Anthem to suffer what it suffered. And I think BioWare is the one that made the announcement that they were stopping production, because the whole deal is that they're halting all updates. Anthem Next is no longer happening, but they're keeping the live service up. So if you want to play Anthem in the state that it's currently in, go for it. But there's just not much there. But they said they're not going to do any of those updates anymore, so they can redirect their resources to a new Dragon Age and Mass Effect. So to me, that was very much an EA decision, not a BioWare decision.
Right.
And I'm pissed. Like, this is one of those things where it's just like, we all knew it was coming, or at least we just had that suspicion of, wow, these changes to Anthem that are coming sound really cool. I wonder if we'll ever actually see them. I don't think anyone, myself included, saw
it just not
future
happening. Right.
Like, yeah, I don't think anyone saw that, like, a future with Anthem in it. Like, it just seemed like it was, wow, that would be cool. Too bad it probably won't happen. So it's really not a shock, but it does not make their decision any less just repulsive. Because people spent money on this game. People have been committed to this game. They did not deliver on what they promised, and they owed it to us, whether they can make any more money off of it or not. They owed it to us to fix it.
Right.
And they just didn't.
They just completely gave up on it.
Yeah, they just gave up on it because they wanted more money, and they knew that they could not monetize the update for Anthem. They knew that if anyone was going to play it, it would have to be free. So they were just like, it's not worth it. Let's just take these people off of this game, gut the project, and put everyone on this other project that they may not even care about.
Right.
Which, to me, Dragon Age, probably the most overrated franchise out there. That may be a hot take.
Right.
But I have not heard anyone say a good thing about Dragon Age since Dragon Age 1. And there have been 3 games. So, I don't know. It's just a really sucky situation. I like to think that some of the people over at BioWare actually cared and wanted to keep working on it, but you never know. Like, you don't know what was BioWare and what was EA.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I am actually at the point where I'm just so pissed off, not surprised.
Right.
That I'm boycotting EA. And I'm not saying that to be like, rise up, my shorties, boycott EA with me. No, I'm at the point where it's like, I cannot in good conscience give my money to this company just when I know they're going to dick me over every single time.
Right.
They do not care about the player experience. They just care about their wallet. And it's really hard to buy a product when I know that
that's how they're how many things about it. Yeah.
With how many things can go wrong with gaming these days, and how everything is kind of like, it's implied if something is broken in the gaming industry, it will be fixed,
right,
or it is the right thing to do to make sure that it's fixed.
Right. There's always hope of an update that will fix it.
There's hope and there's expectation. It's different if like I could go see a bad movie and just be like, it was a bad movie. but I'm not going to boycott people involved in the movie unless if you're Ryan Johnson. Because, you know, bad movies happen. There's nothing you can really do to fix it.
Right.
But they had every bit of power to fix this. But ultimately, they just didn't care in the end. And this is a bigger investment than going to see a film, you know? And so I'm just like, screw EA. I've been messed with enough by EA to this point where it's just like, I'm done. I'm over it. Literally the only thing that will make me buy an EA game is Respawn. Respawn is the only developer over at EA that I have any bit of faith in anymore. Because Respawn has not really made a just god awful bad game. And if they've ever made mistakes, they seem like they've fixed it. Like they did Titanfall, and I love Titanfall. And that's probably the only game that I'll buy.
Right.
From EA ever again is another Titanfall game because I support the franchise. But I don't know. I'm just pissed off. I've talked way longer than I wanted to, which is why I wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about this in the podcast or not. It just grinds my gears, man.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation all the way around. I understand where they're coming from to some degree of, this is probably a loss, but kind of like you said, people have already invested in it, and
it's a loss for us. Deal with it. Like
it's a loss all the way around. That's the problem.
It's the loss for everybody. The least you can do is try to make it to where you haven't lost us as customers,
right?
Or haven't lost our goodwill.
Right.
It's the whole thing with, and I hope I don't eat my words. It's the whole thing with Square Enix and the Avengers.
Right.
It's being reported that Square is committed to supporting Crystal Dynamics through the development of Avengers, because I hope that they understand the importance in a good relationship with the Marvel property and with the fans.
Right.
That is more important than the initial revenue of a game if it didn't quite make profit.
Right.
Because that's long term.
Exactly. Well, and I think Disney does understand that. And so you won't have the same issues there because Papa Disney is going to, the mouse isn't going to let that happen, but we'll see where it all nets out.
We've all seen when the mouse doesn't let that happen. And wouldn't you know it, it was EA.
It was related to EA. So, you know, it's just, this is a nasty cycle, but
they just suck, guys. They are the worst. Okay, you know what? I am going to do it. Chorties. Rise with me, my Chorties. Boycott EA.
Boycott EA. We'll see. I'm going to get the next Fallen Order for sure. Like that's a hard.
Do we even know there's going to be one?
You know, we don't. But if there is, I'm going to want it. So we'll just see. We'll see how it all.
That's Respawn. Out. So I could be swayed to get that.
You can be swayed on that one. So
because it's Respawn.
Well, we'll see where it all nets out, and hopefully it'll be good at some point. But anyway, Anthem is done. Anthem is dead. We can all mourn it. Steven may ask you to rise up in the future.
I might. You know, depends on how my day's going.
Just leave it.
Today was pretty okay. So Chorties, don't assemble yet, Chorties. But you know, maybe tomorrow Chorties assemble. We'll see. We'll see.
Before we continue much further, Steven, what are we playing? What are you playing right now as we record the podcast?
I am playing Rogue Heroes.
Yeah. So Rogue Heroes was one you were real excited about.
Yes, this is a game that I got a demo for it like last month, maybe. And I was like, oh my gosh, how have I not found out about this game until now? Because it's basically if they took like old school Zelda, so top down Zelda. And they were just like, hey, let's make it have 4-player co-op and let's put a light class system in there. And you know what? Let's make it a dungeon roguelite while we're at it. It's great.
Why not?
It's a lot of people are pretty sour on it right now because the online is pretty wonky. Like it needs an update. Like to help with it's funny because Anthem suffers from this as well in the demo, which is one of the frustrating things about this week. But the game itself, I really like. I think there does need to be some minor changes to like how the classes work because some of their passives don't seem to be working properly and stuff. But the core fundamentals again are great. I'm having a blast with it. Jeremy and I have played it a lot this week, and we really like it. It's on PC and Switch, and it's $20, which, with the amount of content in this game, I think Jeremy and I were both pretty surprised.
Yeah.
Because we expected a $30 game at least, but it's 20, so definitely worth it.
Very nice, yeah. We're going to stream it at some point.
Yes.
Steven and I would have done it this week, but we wanted to get to Outriders.
A lot happened. There was a lot this week, man.
A lot going on. And with that in mind, we have lots more still to talk about. So let's get to some more happier news.
What are you playing?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm playing Hitman 3. So I was going to play some Days Gone and kind of work on some trophies, but that all just kind of fell apart on me. So I didn't get it downloaded right in time. So I'm just playing some Hitman, trying to burn through the story.
Real quick, I laughed because I was carrying this glass orb up to this pedestal so I could activate the door to open it. And I threw the glass orb at the pedestal literally a foot from it, and the glass orb shattered. I did not know that would happen, but I threw it. It just broke. And I just stood there for a second and laughed to myself because I was like, I have to go pick up this freaking orb again.
Great.
So
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Of course, if you want to watch us play while we do the podcast, be sure to watch on YouTube or Facebook for the video version of the podcast. You can kind of see our shenanigans, but we probably won't point out what we're doing very often, but sometimes we do.
It happens once or twice a podcast where something happens where it's like, hey, this was pretty funny. But don't worry, audio listeners, you're not really missing out on much.
You're not missing out all the time. All right. Let's talk Sony State of Play. They held a State of Play, I want to say like Tuesday, earlier this week anyway. Had a few announcements. It was a little bit shorter. I think it was about 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes maybe. And it was pretty much just an update on a lot of properties that we knew their names, but we maybe didn't know a lot of details about, or especially we didn't know release dates for. So this was just a great, hey, here's what some of the games we told you were coming in 2021. Here's when they're coming.
It was much needed.
Yes.
Like a lot of people were probably disappointed because of some of the release dates, but I think it was wrong of us to expect more than we got.
Well, I think it was a lot of good updates, but I think whenever you have one of these things, I think a lot of people expect new announcements and then like last minute surprises, right?
Yeah.
And we did. I don't think we got any of those. So, well, with the exception of maybe like one or two things. But anyway,
yeah.
In no particular order to how they were released in the State of Play. Final Fantasy VII Remake is getting an expansion called Intergrade, which is going to be exclusive to the PS5 version of the game. If you're a PS4 version owner right now, you can, of course, upgrade to a PS5 version for free, which is great. Also, Final Fantasy VII Remake is the PS Plus game for March, one of the PS Plus games for March, which I think is a huge win for PS Plus fans. If you haven't played this game yet, I highly recommend it. It's very good. There is a catch. If you have the PS Plus version, you can't get a free upgrade to the PS5 version of the game. So just keep that in mind.
And that is a little dangerous. That sets a precedent.
Well, it's interesting because in a way, from a business standpoint, I understand it. I'm giving you this game that only came out last year. Like, I mean, I think we're coming up on like its year anniversary release if we haven't already passed it, right? So like this game is just a year old. Wasn't it in the Game of the Year conversation this past
it was
for 2020?
It was.
So like a really, really well done game that you've got, you're giving it to free for PS Plus. Like I can understand you saying, hey, if you wanna upgrade, you need to pay for it. And I think for most people that's gonna be fine. Like they can just play the PS4 version, and even if you're playing the PS4 version on a PS5, it's gonna run better than on just PS4.
Right. I think the part that doesn't sit right with me is the fact that the expansion for PS5 also costs money.
Yeah.
Now, if they were like let's just say hypothetically, if the Yuffie expansion, whatever her name is,
you had it right.
If that was part of a free update, for the next gen hardware or new gen hardware, if they were like, this you cannot upgrade for free, that I could understand.
Right.
But if they're expecting people who have Final Fantasy VII through Plus, but they have a PS5, if they're expecting them to not only buy the full game and the expansion to be able to play it on PS5, because think about it. People who have the PS4 version, they've said that the PS5 Integrate expansion is not for PS4. It's PS5. So does that mean that playing that version is not the PS5 version, so I can't get the expansion until I own the full game?
Right.
That's where it's just like, that doesn't sit right with me. They should have made it to where the upgrade was free since the expansion costs.
Yeah,
because
that would have been
they're
nice.
done making money. They're done making money off that game outside of expansion. So if the expansion costs money, that's where your revenue comes from. Don't expect people to buy the full game and then buy an expansion immediately if you want these people who have Plus to opt into this game.
Right. Yeah, just weird. It's one of those things. They'll figure it out. But while we're just stuck on this, they have also commented that they are planning to release more new games on PS Plus in the future. So we've seen a lot. Like I think it's called Marquette, something like that. That's the other. There were 4 games for this month's March PS Plus. Let me, in fact, here since we're just talking about it, let me back out and get to that. Final Fantasy VII, which we talked about, but then also Farpoint, which is a VR game, so really cool.
I've heard great things about Farpoint.
Looks very cool.
It's a very good story shooter.
Yep, a space shooter. Looked really, really cool. Remnant from the Ashes, which is like a Dark Souls inspired shooter.
I'm very excited about that one because that was a free game on PC for a time, and it's very good. It's a great co-op game.
Right. And then Marquette is a PS5 recursive puzzler from Graceful Decay and Annapurna Interactive. And it's a PS5 exclusive for the PS Plus. So, but that's a brand new game. Like that game is launching first on PS Plus. So, really hope they stick with that and continue with that track of doing that.
It's
cool.
a good model, but I just hope that the Final Fantasy VII thing doesn't set a precedent to where it's a free game with an asterisk, to where it almost feels like a different kind of trial. Like, I hope that's where we don't end up. I'm not saying that Final Fantasy VII launching in the way that it is that way, but I'm just hoping that they don't make these PS Plus games have a condition attached to them for getting them for free.
Well, but if the condition is, hey, we're giving you the PS4 version for free, but you have to pay for the PS5 upgrade, like, I'm fine with that condition.
Yeah, but I'm just hoping that them doing this doesn't
lead to something bigger.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, we will have to wait and see. Moving on, we got a brand new trailer for Kena, The Bridge of Spirits, which will be released on PS4 and PS5 on August 24th.
What a Jake-ass game.
I'm telling you, man, they could not have made a game more in line with what I want. I am so excited about that game.
It's kind of pissing me off because these developers keep making games for you. Where's my game?
Outriders, Steven, you're playing it, right? You have it.
Outriders is not like catered to me. It just hits a lot of my buttons. But like, this Kena was like literally, there was a boardroom meeting somewhere where these Japanese people were like, here's this American white male. We have to make him a game. This is his game. Where's my boardroom meeting with Japanese people?
I have no idea, Steven, but I'm sure it's coming down the line at some point. The new trailer looks cool. I'm not going to do like a full breakdown of it or anything here, but it is a Jake-ass game, and there's like magic, there's bows, there's cute little creatures. I am all about it. There's some sort of fox mask, and I still don't really know what it does, but it's a fox mask. Like, even if that's all it is, even if it's just a fox mask that you can wear, that's good enough for me.
It's probably just a mask.
It's good enough for me. It's there, so very excited about that one. August 24th, which I think is a little bit later than most people were expecting, but honestly, I'm fine with that as a date. That's going to be a good slot for it.
It's good to start talking about the games that we can expect towards the back half of the year.
Exactly. Speaking of Japanese boardrooms that would have been making a game for Steven, but for some reason Steven doesn't like, they also showed a new trailer and kind of a deep dive for Returnal, which is an upcoming House Marquee's new PS5 game, which is basically, it looks like a AAA roguelite. It's very much, it's space. There's kind of this mystery story going on. This lady is trying to...
Well, it seems like it might be more of a roguelike than a roguelite. And I hate that there's a distinction. Because like roguelite would probably be something like Rogue Heroes that I'm playing right now, to where you do carry over a lot of progress from your attempt. But my understanding is that this one, you don't really carry stuff over from your attempt other than your knowledge and maybe some upgrades or something. So it's like a fresh run every time almost.
I gotcha.
I guess. I don't know. It's you know, potato, but I don't know.
Tomato. Anyway, looks like a Steven game, but Steven is not not loving it yet.
Well, here's the thing. It's a roguelike. That's all it is. And it doesn't seem to have a gimmick yet. The story pieces look like they could be interesting, but like the thing about roguelikes is that because it's such a oversaturated. I don't even know if it's oversaturated, because a lot of these games do have gimmicks. Rogue Heroes has the gimmick of being a lot like Zelda and being half roguelike or half roguelite, half RPG, and it's got the co-op and the class system. This game just seems to be an arcadey roguelike shooter that has really good graphics, and that's not a bad thing, but that doesn't...
That's just not enough to hook you.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, well, what like from a gameplay point of view, like taking visuals completely out of it, what can I get from this that I can't get from something like Risk of Rain 2? And that's what I'm looking for, is I need to see what makes this game a unique experience. Who knows? There probably is something, I just haven't seen it yet, but I haven't actively looked for information about this one, so who knows?
Who freaking knows? But we'll find out. They also talked about Oddworld Soulstorm, which they've already announced is going to be the PS Plus game for April. So if you were looking forward to that and weren't sure if you wanted to pay for it, you can get it for free if you have PS Plus.
It was really confusing the way they said it, because that was not the impression I got. Like their wording made me think that they were just saying that the upgrade was free. But then everybody was coming out saying like, oh no, yeah, that's the PS Plus game. I was surprised.
Yeah, I am too. But that's one of those games that I kind of tuned out at that point, because I'm just not as interested. But
it looks cool for like a platformer standpoint. Right. But I'm not a platformer kind of person, and the characters are so off-putting that I just can't bring myself to care. And that may sound really shallow, but I don't know.
No, I get it. All right. Then they also showed a Crash Bandicoot 4. It's About Time. They showed off the PS5 version, so that's exciting for if you're interested in that. They also showed off multiplayer dodgeball game Knockout City, which was also shown at the Switch, the Nintendo Direct that we talked about last week. So, Steven, what do you think about that one? Because I know you're a big dodgeball person. So
it looks like it could be fun. I need to play it before I know, because a lot of multiplayer games just... I'm looking at you, Destruction All Stars or whatever your name is. I've already forgotten you. That one didn't work because they did not spend near enough time contemplating the dynamics of a match, I guess.
Right.
So I would have to play it, see how it works, see how the balancing is, see if it's just frustratingly difficult because people have an edge for whatever reason. I just need to see it. But it is a game that, even though it is PvP, I'm interested. And I thought it was hilarious when they were like, you could even use yourself as the ball. That cracked me up. That you could
Isn't that great?
I thought that was good. That was pretty good. I'm excited to try it, but I don't know if I'll spend money on it.
Right. I can understand that. I can understand not wanting to spend money on it. But anyway, that was a good one. Then they also showed, this is kind of the new thing they showed off. They showed off a new game from the Absolver developer called Sifu, which is a grounded martial arts kung fu game. They just showed off a little bit, so we still don't really know what it's going to go off of. But if you've seen any Absolver, it has a lot of Absolver vibes to it.
Yes. As soon as I saw it, I was like, this is very Absolver, even through like the visuals.
Right.
But it was weird because Sifu kind of looked like, the great, we actually referenced this during the Little Nightmare stuff that we were recording. But the great hallway fights, like the one-take hallway fights like Daredevil and I forget the other ones that I mentioned. It looked like just a one-take hallway fight game. Like, because I don't think I think all of the fights that they showed were just in one hallway. And I don't know, it just looked like really fun, satisfying combat. And I'm all about it.
It does. It looks really, really fun. So I'm excited to see where that goes. And I'm glad to know that it was Absolver, those developers, because I thought they did a great job with Absolver. I never got into it. So hopefully with something a little bit more focused, maybe it'll be.
It was a hard one to get into because it just, quite frankly, didn't make any sense. Like, I played through all of Absolver. I beat the campaign. I still don't know what the hell was going on. I stumbled my way through that game, but I enjoyed it.
It was good. It was good. They also showed off some new gameplay of Hyper Light Drifter's developer Heart Machine's Solar Ash, which is coming to PS4 and PS5 later in 2021. Looks really, really cool. Looks very fast-paced. They talked a lot about the fluidity of movement. So if you've seen Hyper Light Drifter, it looks a lot like that, but just kind of the next step, like the upgrade version of that. They showed first gameplay of Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, which looks absolutely terrifying. It's a first person kind of take, and it's definitely the most ambitious game that they've done with that. You're like actually moving around a complex and not just trapped in like a security room or anything like that. So if you are a Five Nights at Freddy's fan, there's lots there for you.
That's one of those games that, like, you gotta respect Scott Cawthon, the creator, for how far he's come,
right,
and how he's kept the whole thing going through all these different forms of media. Like, I have mad respect for him and just the way he's handled the property. Because even though I'll never play the games, I still get excited when they release stuff because it's like, oh man, the plot thickens. Let's see where the story's going to go now.
Right. Let's see where this how far they can take this. So yeah.
And I'm really excited to see him doing such a ambitious big project. Because if you look at that compared to where the series started, that's just cool. And when you also consider the fact that, like, I think the year before FNAF even came out, he was working at a Dollar General. Like, he's just a huge success story, and he really seems to know how all this works. And that's just really cool.
Yeah,
I always like seeing him succeed.
They also showed off Deathloop, some more Deathloop action.
Yes,
Steven's very excited about Deathloop.
That trailer was so good.
I'm not. I guess have we known that it was coming out on May 21st, or was that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah.
we've known
So they reiterated May 21st again there. So that is coming.
It was a very James Bondian trailer, and they even did like a song for it that sounded like a James Bond song.
It was very cool. A lot of style in that game. If nothing else, it's got oodles and oodles of style.
It really does.
It's a good time. Going to be a good time. But that was the end of the state of the play. So, like we said, nothing. I mean, Sifu was kind of the newest thing, I guess, that we've really heard about. That was kind of the big, not even big, but just like that was kind of the new announcement. But all good updates, all stuff that we needed to know about, and updates we needed to have. So I'm glad they had this and that I'm excited for everything they talked about. So it's going to be good. But moving on, let's talk, Steven, about the Pokemon Presents video that went live earlier this week as well. If you didn't know, this is the 25th anniversary of Pokemon this month. It was February 27th was the big day. So there's lots of stuff happening. If you're a Pokemon fan, I highly recommend you just watch the very beginning of this because there was a really cool montage video that was maybe like 5 or so minutes long. That was just, here's everything that's happened in the last 25 years Pokemon related. And it was just really cool to watch and be like, oh yeah, I had one of those, or I did that, and yeah, that was cool. So lots of cool announcements. They of course talked about Pokemon Snap. We got a new gameplay trailer there that's coming out on April 30th to Switch. So if you're a Pokemon Snap fan, you've got that. But then the real big news was they announced Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl remakes. So of course, if you're a Diamond or Pearl fan from those Pokemon games from 2006, this is a fully fleshed out remake.
You know it's a remake because they threw adjectives in it.
Exactly, right. You know when it's brilliant and shining, it's a remake. Yeah. It looks like they're making a very true to the original game. They just kind of showed off a little bit. It doesn't seem like a new art style. It looks a lot like Link's Awakening, which kind of took that pixel art style and then just kind of kept, I don't know how to say this, like kept the angles and the top down almost perspective, but made everything like cutesy 3D versions of the pixels. And that's a lot like what they've done here with Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So they announced that coming late in 2021. I would think November or December is a safe bet for that. So exciting, very cool. Steven, did you play either of those, Diamond or Pearl? I missed out on Diamond and Pearl's generation.
The only mainline I played was Blue when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. That was my first Game Boy Color game. Then I played Silver, and that was the peak, in my opinion. Silver and Gold. And then I played Y in college.
Very nice, very nice. I played the opposites of every game you just called out there. So, except for Gold, I didn't play Silver or Gold. So,
oh, it was the best. It was the best, man.
I played Yellow, and then I skipped a lot and came back for X.
The reason that Johto is the best, in my opinion, is because Silver and Gold, you get to do both Johto and Kanto's league. So it's 2 games in 1.
That's pretty great.
So you actually get to go back. It's basically a sequel to Blue, Red. Well, I guess, yeah, Blue and Red, because you go back to the league and you see everything that has happened as an outcome to what you did as Red or Blue in those games. And then it culminates in you facing off against Red. That's the boss. That's the final boss. So that's the best game because it's literally just the most value. You get 2 leagues and you get the best Pokemon lineup, the biggest Pokemon lineup probably as far as, because it's 2 regions. I don't know. Right. I love that game. It's never been the same since.
Well, speaking of never being the same since, they also announced Pokemon Legends Arceus. Arceus, thank you. Which is a game that takes place in the Sinnoh region, but in its feudal past. And it is a open world Pokemon game. Has vibes of Breath of the Wild. Your character is roaming around. Pokemon are openly roaming. When you approach a Pokemon, you don't engage a battle where you can choose how to, you can use a Pokemon to weaken it or anything. You literally approach a Pokemon, throw your Pokeball. You go into it looks like Link about to throw a boomerang or a spear or something, but you throw your Pokeball and it catches or it doesn't, and then you can go. They showed off battles. It did look like you were still picking what attacks your Pokemon was doing, but it looked a lot more like, speaking of Final Fantasy, the Final Fantasy system where I forget what they called it. I want to say ATB was the acronym they had for it, but it was basically like real-time battle strategy where like you were still doing the, not even turn-based, but just like you were picking what move you were going to do, your Pokemon was going to do. But it was all kind of happening at once. Like you could maybe
like real time.
Yeah.
Kind of.
They didn't give a whole lot of details other than that. The starters, this was kind of exciting. The starters are Rowlet, Cyndaquil, and Ocelot. which are all from different regions. So, and some of them not even related at all to the Sinnoh region. So,
Well, the interesting thing about that is that those are all in some way related to feudal Japan.
oh, really?
Like samurai culture. Yeah, because like one of those, the water one, like his final form is a sumo like Pokemon or something, right? I
Interesting.
think. And then Rowlet is an archer, and
Right.
then Typhlosion, I forget his connection, but I know that I read something about him having a connection to, like maybe his name was some kind of connection to samurai culture. So
Interesting. That's
yeah.
a fun little fact.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And I love Cyndaquil and Rowlet, so I'm really excited because Cyndaquil was my starter in Silver.
right. I love Rowlet. Rowlet was my starter in Sun. So
Rowlet is going to be who I pick, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm glad Cyndaquil's getting some recognition again because he's very underrated, cute Pokemon that also is equally badass as he is cute.
exactly. So that's going to be a good pick. But anyway, I am very excited about this. I've said I have been on the train with a lot of other folks that Pokemon needs a Breath of the Wild-esque update. And even though this is a spin-off type situation, not unlike Pokemon Let's Go and Pikachu and Eevee, hopefully some of the ideas that they're testing here will make it into future mainline games.
I think that's a really good perspective to have. Is even in the name, it just screams, this is us testing
Right.
future potential.
Right. That's what I'm most excited about, is that this could lead to some really, really exciting things.
So anyone who is excited for it, ground your expectations. Like when everybody went in, and I say this because we're fresh off of Sword and Shield, where so many people were pissed at the reduced number of Pokemon, which is understandable. This is going to be that kind of situation, I think, to where the Pokemon that you get are going to be very limited, because if they are truly doing all the Pokemon are roaming around, have their own animations and an active combat style,
right,
you just got to know that this is them trying that for the first time, so you can't expect everything.
Right. Yeah, and hopefully people will get that, and we'll be fine there. But anyway, very
It's exciting
exciting
nonetheless.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
So question: are you more excited about the Pokemon game that looks like Zelda, or the Pokemon game that looks like Zelda?
So funny. I am more excited about the Pokemon game that looks like Zelda. So,
I see. I'm more excited about the Pokemon game that looks like Zelda.
yeah, I can understand that. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, you're wrong.
I'm no, definitely the one, the open world one. I'm more excited about.
Absolutely.
I would have been open to the Brilliant Diamond, Brilliant Pearl, but
if they hadn't announced this.
Well, it's not even that. I don't like the art style that they went with. I wish they had done a Pokemon Let's Go approach to it, and kind of changed up the perspective a bit, and giving you taller characters and whatnot. So we'll see. I mean, if they add some cool new features to it, I could be swayed. But at this point, I'm not trying to get into it, but we'll see. We'll see where it all nets out in the end. All right, Steven, that's the news. Let's talk about this little game called Outriders that we've been so excited about, that you've been just talking all about for so long. You've been crying out to the developers to give us a pass.
I'm still here, Sven.
I'm still here. We'll still take it, I guess, at this point. But
I will take your early access copy in any form. Put me in, coach. Let me talk about this game. I've gotten so many people to purchase it. I am your champion.
I am the people's champ. So talk to me, Steven. You've played a good bit of the demo at this point. What are your top level thoughts on it? What are you thinking about it?
So the visuals aren't quite what I think a lot of people were hoping for, myself included. Like the powers and everything, and like the atmosphere are well done, but there's certain things like the fact that if you have a trench coat, for example, the trench coat has no physics whatsoever. So even like when you roll, the trench coat sticks straight out as if it's frozen solid. And that's a little thing, but still, like, it being a PS5 game, you're hoping for good visuals. It doesn't break the game for me at all. Like, if the game doesn't have any visual upgrade from what we played on the demo, I won't lose any sleep over it.
Right.
Just because it's about the gameplay. And that's kind of the theme of my experience with Outriders is, at the end of the day, how does it play? Is it fun?
Right.
And just continuing the trend of like what went wrong or what I guess nitpicks, if you want to say that. The animations and everything are a bit rough. For example, just using Division as a place of example, since you said that like skills are similar to the Division. I play the Technomancer in Outriders, which has a very Division play style where it's a lot of deployable skills like turrets. Division does that aspect of play so smoothly that when something is less smooth, you can tell. And with Outriders, like placing down deployables or ground targets is a little rough. Like, it's not precise. And also when you use a skill that sends something out, you're kind of animation locked so you can get yourself killed. But that's not as noticeable unless if you're playing in multiplayer. And this is the other big negative. The multiplayer, as of right now, has some really bad rubber banding. Just bad connection.
Right.
Like there's a really bad sync between players going on. And last bad thing. The voice acting is pretty awful.
Yeah. It's not even the voice acting. It's just
the writing.
It's the writing. It's a little cheesy.
It's the dialogue.
It's a lot cheesy.
Yes. And so the dialogue is pretty bad. But the dialogue is also bad in a little game called Metro. And that is one of my favorite story franchises. So that's kind of the example I would use, because the story is very interesting. I like what they're doing with the story from an overhead kind of plot. And Anthem is a parallel that I'll use with this game a lot, because Anthem did a pretty good job with its character story. Like, I liked a lot of the characters. They seemed to have a lot of personality. But its world was just intentionally like, we don't know what's going on.
Right. Who knows what these are?
Yeah, right. With this game, the world details are very impressive. Like, even though Enoch is a new place, because the whole plot is that I've basically said it's Wall-E if it was gritty.
Right.
Because the colony ships were sent from Earth because Earth was basically barren at this point.
Right.
It was uninhabitable. So you are the inhabitants of a ship that went to colonize a planet called Enoch. And your character is an outrider, the frontline scout, recon, guardians, whatever of this colony. Things go wrong, and you try to cancel the ship sending out basically for landing, but something goes wrong, and you end up going into cryo for 31 years. And once you get out, everything has gone to hell, to where it's jarring. Where when you wake up, you feel like you're in a different place. And the way they did that, I thought was really impressive. And it is there is a little bit of suspension of disbelief that has to happen with it being 31 years. But they actually make effort to explain how, like, fortresses were built in that amount of time and all the progress was made. And the fact that they make effort is good enough for me. Like,
right.
I won't knock it if they're just like, oh yeah, we were able to do this because of these construction size industrial 3D printers, basically. Like, it's like, okay, you know what? You tried. And I'll take
something
it. You threw something in there. You knew that I would think of that. And it's just like, sure.
Yeah.
Fair enough. It's not a big enough detail to where I'm just like, no, trash story. But the world is interesting. The anomaly is really cool. The anomaly gave me vibes of what, again, being Anthem, what the Cataclysm could have been. They make it very threatening, and they make it to where stakes are clearly there. It's not just a big storm where things are wonky. It like, you see people get disintegrated.
Things are wonky.
People get powers from it. Like, the anomaly is a clear threat, so that when you are told the anomaly is keeping us in this valley, you're like, I can understand that. That thing is dangerous. And I don't know. I really like the potential of the world, and I don't know if like you paid any attention to it, but like the intro cutscene when you launch the beta, I'm pretty sure that's all Enoch. Like that's not just a people can fly logo. Right. That's Outriders. So like you see all these different biomes with this giant like demon dragon flying around, and you see all these big creatures. That cutscene has me really pumped to explore the rest of Enoch. I'm excited to see what else is out there, because we know that monster hunts are going to be a thing.
Right.
So there's going to be a lot of big creatures that you fight, and that has me excited. So continuing with the theme of like what is good, or I guess starting the theme of what is good, because last thing we talked about was the dialogue. The gameplay, even though the shooting is a little bit rough, and that's just because the sensitivity, you have to kind of find what works for you. The skill gameplay, like using the abilities and the classes, they are so freaking generous with what you can do. Right. Like I'm so used to playing games like Division and Destiny to where it's like, okay, there's an update. How am I screwed over this time? And Outriders, the way I've been describing it is, Outriders is like the irresponsible parent. That's just like, go have fun, kids. We don't care what you do with it.
We don't care what you do.
Because you like, as the Technomancer, again, that's the class that I'm playing. That, by the way, was literally created for me, and I love it.
That was your Japanese boardroom moment.
That was, I didn't have a Japanese boardroom. I just had one friendly Japanese man who just has like my picture on his desk, and he's just like, "This one's for you, Steven.
This one's for you, bud."
But it's like, it's described as long range support and gadgets. So in layman's terms, sniping, healing, summoning. That's my three. But playing it as a level 1 Technomancer, no gear augmenting me whatsoever. My turret has constant uptime. Which means I can, like, in a fight, my turret is able to always be on the field. That's a big deal. Because like in Division, for example, you have to kind of work for that to get your turret always out, because you have to either up its duration or lower its cooldown. Just stuff like that. They have even said, like, we want you to use your powers all the time. There's no point in you holding on to your powers. Use them. That is part of your arsenal. So that's been cool. Seeing the way that even minor gear alters your gameplay is really impressive, because you could get a blue rarity item, and normally blue rarity is something that you're just like, oh, cool, I got a blue. At least it's better than a green.
Right.
But so far, blue rarity items can have perks on them that augment your skills in a way to where, like, an exotic would augment something in Destiny or Division. Like, that's, you can have that on every single piece of gear in Outriders.
Right.
For example, the Scrapnel Mine, and I'm going to talk from the perspective of a Technomancer because that's what I've played. The Scrapnel Mine is basically a proximity mine that I can throw, and it detonates when someone walks over it. There's a pair of gloves that I found that was just a blue pair of gloves that was like, hey, you get 2 of these now before cooldown activates. Fantastic. Like, the gear augments your gameplay in very important ways. The guns feel really powerful. I found a legendary. It looks like a electrified mutated assault rifle that has animal bones on it, and it makes lightning strike whenever it hits somebody, and it's awesome. Again, the theme of this game is, sure, it's got problems. It requires polish, but is it fun? And this game, more than a lot of other games, I'm able to look past a lot of those minor things because I'm having such a blast with it.
Right.
And there's so much thought put into little things that benefit the player. Like, you can tell that the people that play this, that made this game, they want to play this game. Like,
right.
It's not one of those situations where they're just like, all right, I'm going to make this game, then I'm off to the next project. I genuinely feel like the people making Outriders want to be playing Outriders for a while after it's released. Because there's little things like I'm just trying to think of an example, because there's a ton. I've been talking about them for weeks at this point.
Right.
But just the one that comes to mind, the Prologue. The Prologue is very important for story purposes, but they know that people want to make multiple characters. So they made it to where once you play the prologue once, when you make a subsequent character, you can just skip straight to when you pick your class. That's smart. That's something that like someone who plays the game would probably ask for after a game launched, and they'd be like, oh, wow, that's a good idea. We didn't think of that. But Outriders, the people can fly, the developers, they've thought of those kind of things. Having your fire team in cutscenes rather than just being your character in cutscenes. It's in there. Just a lot of little detail that shows that a lot of thought went behind this because they're passionate about what they're creating. They want to play it themselves, so you know that they want it to be good. So they're going to make it be good as best they can.
Right.
I've talked for a minute. My mouth's getting dry, so you kind of.
I'll just. It's funny, and we definitely have differing opinions on it at this point. And I haven't played as much as you have, but for me, I think you just said they nail the core things, right? That the gameplay's good, and sure, this needs some polish, but the bones are here. For me, it's the opposite. To me, they've nailed the little details, but the overall image I am not interested in. Like some of the details you just mentioned of, your friends are in cutscenes. Like that's cool. That's a really important detail. The skipping the prologue, that's really important. And even just beyond that, like little things like how in other games they give you a power fantasy, but then limit your powers. And it's nice that they're giving you more here. But also other things, I don't even think you mentioned this, but just like how they've talked about this isn't a games of service game. Like this is a one-time, like this is it. This is the story. And we're going to support it, throughout, but it's not meant to be a game that you just play forever. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I think they're nailing all that right, but I don't know. The gameplay for me, I struggle with because to me it feels very much like Division, and I think what I'm learning, and I talked a little bit about this on the stream last night, but I think what I've learned about myself is that I don't like third-person shooters. I'm fine with third-person action games, like, and it's funny because I was thinking about like, why is that and how, like, what does that all mean? Because I haven't been a big fan of The Division. The Division really had nothing going for me. Like nothing about it was enticing. The world was not interesting for me.
I think the problem was less that Division didn't have anything for you, and I think it just failed to get you on a core level. Because like if Division was any other kind of setting, you probably would have liked a lot more about what it does. But I think that with like kind of like you said last night, you were just not interested in military realistic shooter.
Right. Yeah. I wasn't interested in any of that. But now that I've played this, because I think the world that they're talking about sounds cool. So they've at least got me there, and even just I'll comment on this while I'm at it. I you mentioned the story is very interesting. I think it's more interesting, and like you said, they've at least given more details than Anthem. But I think this is another problem for me. I don't know that a multiplayer game needs a story because I'm not paying a lick of attention. If I am in a party with other people, I'm not going to hear a word your guy's telling me. And if anything, I'm annoyed when I'm in a cutscene, and especially when I have to make dialogue choices. I was last night when I was streaming, I was just like, oh my God, I have no idea what this person just said. I'm just going to pick one, and I would just skip. So I wasn't going for any of that. And part of that is we were streaming, but part of that is, I was with you and Jeremy, and we're all talking. We're having a conversation about whatever.
Right.
So I'm not paying attention to any of that. But to get back to the third person stuff, I think what I've discovered is that I don't like third person shooters, even though I am a big third person fan. Like I would, if you were to ask me, Jake, do you like first person or third person? I'd say third person. But I think I'm learning that when it comes to a shooter, I don't quite like it as much. And I don't know what it is. It's something, there's something in how like the Division, maybe it's the cover system. Cause like I really and I've heard this from a lot of people. I've watched a lot of videos last night about Outriders. It sounds like no one likes the cover system right now. And I feel like it's such a weird thing that we even have it, because I don't think they even wanted you to use the cover system. Because they talk a lot in their explanations.
Covers for cowards and all that stuff.
Yeah, they say covers for cowards and all this. Then like, why did we have a cover system? Like, why is this a thing?
Yeah.
And another big thing for me, and I didn't. It seems so simple, but jumping. Like, why can't we jump in this game? I don't get it. Like, and this is another thing that grind my gears. There are cutscenes to open a door that do not you have a cutscene to open a door.
Everybody's like, why is this here? That's the thing that everyone's just like, I don't understand, is how there's a cutscene for the cutscenes move very fast. Like at certain parts, they are just constantly happening. And it's because it has that more instant nature. Like I've said before, it's more Borderlands, less Destiny.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's probably from a technical point of view of using that brief cutscene as an opportunity for you to load the little stuff that needs to be loaded. But there's still a loading screen often after the cutscene. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and see, something else that I didn't realize it until I was like I said, I was watching some videos last night. The game is very linear, almost to a negative point, I think, because what I started to notice, and it has to do with these cutscenes to get into a door, like any area you're in the game, you come up to a door or you come up to a ledge that you have to have a cutscene to jump across, and then you're in a new section. And you just move up to the next room, you fight some enemies, maybe there's a chest, you move up to the next room, you fight maybe the boss, and then you loot a chest, and then you get an icon that lets you travel somewhere backwards. And I don't know, I just didn't like that. I would prefer, like, at least in Division, it was, hey, here's this whole map. And just, you want to get to point A to B, go for it. And I'm sure there's fast travel and stuff like that. But I just like the open world nature of how that worked better than this. So I don't know. I hope that a lot more polish is on the final version. And I'm interested to see where the powers can go. Because while I was playing it, I didn't love them. It just seemed weird. And I don't know how to describe it. Cause I do like that they give you a lot of variety in your abilities. Like there's the firewall there I was playing a pyromancer, or it wasn't a firewall. It was a heat wave that sends up a firewall, that applies burn to enemies. And then you shoot those enemies. And then there's a fire bomb where you like punch the ground and fire goes out to one enemy, causes burn effect on them. And then once they are killed, they explode and do a massive burst of damage. Those are all very creative, but it just, all of it. And I know you can string abilities together, and I'm hoping that once you have gear to where you can just be spamming abilities, it'll feel better. But like, I don't know. One of the things, watching the Tricksters gameplay, they have this move that they get early on where a huge blade comes on their arm and they swipe it real wide. And in the video they showed, every time they did that, that person died. Like it eviscerated anyone in front of them. Whereas as a pyromancer, I'd send my firewall out and then I'd have to shoot them to finish them off. So I almost wish that all the powers worked like it looked like that Trickster's power worked. Where if I use a power, that person's gone. They are eviscerated. And so that's what I'm hoping it'll get to.
the difference in there is that the Pyromancer is less about those big one shots, and it's more about spreading pain through burn, and because burn is a form of crowd control, so it's like a stun.
Right.
So it's like the difference between killing somebody with a bleed effect and just a big crit hit. The Trickster is definitely more that crit character, to where, having used the blade that you're talking about, it does feel like it's pretty much a one-shot kill most of the time. It's very high damage.
Yeah.
And it does literally rip their skin off every time you use it, even if they don't die.
Right.
It's amazing. But yeah, and that's kind of what I realized, because I pushed you towards Pyromancer, and I realized after we talked about it how wrong I was to do that. Because I didn't think movement... I didn't expect the lack of a jump to be as big of a deal, but
it really... I'm shocked that they...
I really haven't played many games of this genre.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I'm shocked at how grounded it is. Like, and this is coming from people who, like, were just in a lightning storm and got superpowers, right? Like, I'm shocked that there's not a jump. That seems like a really strange omission to me. But I know, having not played many of the games from a genre like this, I don't know. It had a lot bigger of an effect on me than I think than I would have expected to. But it was just such a weird omission for me.
Well, you got to consider the origins of People Can Fly.
Right.
Gears of War Judgment was a game they did. Gears of War is a game that is very glued to the ground, because it has, and this is why the cover system's in the game, because that's kind of core to the Gears of War place, like gameplay loop. So they were bringing that in, because you can't really have a game like it where the game feels like it is very stuck to the ground. You can't really do a game like that and not have a cover system.
Yeah.
You kind of need it, even if you don't use it a lot or don't want to use it. The cover system helps it flow a lot better. And so I think that's why that's there. And after hearing like how big of a deal the jump was to you, I was just like, maybe the Trickster is the right call. And I went and played the Trickster and unlocked the teleport like immediately, and it's got a super quick cooldown where you can literally just blink behind an enemy. So you can travel completely across the map to where a sniper is, execute him with your time blade, and then just blip out. That I did that, and I was like, okay, yeah, maybe this is what he's looking for. And I don't know. It's interesting to me. Like because and again, this is why I feel like it's so important for people who are hyping up Outriders. You aren't one of those people, which is why it's been not necessarily a bad decision for you to not do any of your research. But for people who are hyped about it, it's important that People Can Fly has been as transparent as they've been. Because someone who might have been expecting more of an Anthem or Destiny kind of map, to where it is more open, like in the area that you're in, but they ended up getting something closer to Borderlands, because Borderlands is that same way, to where the map looks very linear, but you can go anywhere. Like, you can go back to places and explore and do side quests and stuff. That's Borderlands to a T. It's so important that People Can Fly have been as transparent as they've been, because they've been grounding people's expectations. And so your experience with it has kind of shown even more credence to that mindset, I think, of transparency and, grounding expectations is so important in making a game, because a lot these misunderstandings, these misconceptions are so easy to happen, even under the best intentions.
Right.
And so I don't know, like and obviously that's not like saying anything against you. I understand, but I guess I'm saying, if you were as hyped as I was and telling everybody about it, which you're not, that's been my job. But you had not looked into those nitty gritty, if they had not provided those nitty gritty details, there would have been that level of disappointment, and you would have been even more bummed than you might have been when you didn't enjoy it as much as you might have thought you would. Because you would have felt deceived in a way.
Right.
So it's very important that they've been handling it the way they have. I think. Mm-hmm. And I hope that you can come to like the game. But I would just say, like, it's not Destiny. And like, I know it's really hard because it does feel like such a service title, like from this side of the coin, playing it for the first time with not a lot of information about it. It, like, you play it and you're like, oh, okay, it's Destiny. It's a service title.
Right.
It's really not.
Right.
Like, if you played a Borderlands game all the way through, then you would totally kind of see what I see, where you're just like, I totally get what they're going for. This is just Borderlands with Destiny flair.
Right.
Not the other way around. So I don't know. I hope you can come to enjoy it. I hope that you end up getting it. I hope that when you try the Trickster, you're just like, okay, yeah, this is what I've been missing.
Yeah.
But I totally understand if it's not for you, because it's kind of like how I've been saying with Division. I poke fun at you for how much you seem to hate that game, but I totally understand.
Right. Yeah.
It's just not for everybody.
Just not for everybody. But anyway, the demo is free though. So if you are even questioning it, you can go check it out and see if it is for you. So, which I think is really cool. I really commend them for putting on the demo for people to try.
Again, in just the way they've talked about the game. I don't know if you watched the broadcast before the demo launched, but they always do a Q&A. Like, they take actual people's questions from Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions was, how will Outriders perform on my older rig or old gen console? Mm-hmm. And you just know that somebody asked that because of Cyberpunk. Mm-hmm. But People Can Fly, the way they responded to that question was not in any way a dig at CD Projekt Red. They basically just said, try the demo.
Right.
If it doesn't run well, then that's how you know. We just don't want you guys to spend money when it's not fit for you. They didn't take shots. They so easily could have, but they didn't. Mm-hmm. It was a very... It was good on them to not take the mean-spirited approach, because they so easily could have.
Right.
Because it's, you know, CD Projekt Red, it's the meme right now. They are such an easy target, and they didn't take the shot. And I appreciate that. I just a lot of the nitty gritty of how they've handled the marketing, I continue to just be impressed with. And it does, even if you don't like the game, it deserves a bunch of recognition.
They have done a lot of things right as far as how they're handling the game. It just, for me, I don't know that the game is for me yet, but I'm willing to give it a little bit more of a try. Yeah. So
I hope it is, but I won't be offended if it's not.
Well, speaking of things,
I'll just be sad
to not be offended about, let's talk about WandaVision, episode 8, the penultimate episode, where it's all starting to come together. Steven, what? I don't even know where to begin. I never know where to start on these. This week's episode, we saw.
You called it. You did say that you think this episode's going to be a flashback episode, and it was literally Wanda's origin story.
This in a lot of ways, this showed us a true origin story of Wanda Maximoff. We saw a lot. So the episode opens up, picks up where we left off. Agatha and Wanda are in the basement, and basically we come to find out that Agatha. We see a flashback for Agatha as well, of how she kind of came to be, and it looks like she was part of a coven of witches. She kind of was dabbling in the dark arts, the darker side of magic. If this somehow connects to Doctor Strange, which I think it will, like talking about Agatha specifically, a lot of people have pointed out in the library in Doctor Strange, there was a book missing from the collection of like forbidden books. And a lot of people think that's what we assume is the Darkhold that we saw at the end of episode 7. We didn't really get any more details on what that book is in this episode. I'm hoping we will in the next one. And anyway, where was I going with that? It seems like I'm curious to see how this magic that's happening between her and Wanda, how that relates to Doctor Strange. Is it the same? I mean, I don't think it's the same type of magic, but
It's not. It's chaos magic. Well, that's what Wanda's using.
That's what Wanda's using. And basically what I'm trying to get to, I'll just jump to it. Dormammu in Doctor Strange, his magic was purple. I wonder if, not that Agatha is connected to Dormammu, but maybe he was kind of from like a dark universe. I almost wonder if that she's kind of pulling her magic from that. But anyway, I'm getting into the weeds of something I didn't even mean to get into the weeds of. We see her kind of origin. She kills her coven, blah, blah, blah. We assume she gained a lot of power somehow when she killed them. But then it cuts back to her and Wanda. And basically we find out that Agatha came. She felt the spell happen. And she came to kind of see how Wanda did this and what she was doing to pull this off. So she basically was wanting to figure out how this all started. So, which we've all want to know as well. So, we kind of went through a flashback episode, if you will. Agatha called it a rerun at some point. And we went kind of all through Wanda's life and all in an effort to kind of figure out who is Wanda, what is Wanda. So we saw the moment that we've heard about in Ultron where Wanda and Pietro's parents were killed from a Stark aerospace raid or whatever, bombing. We also saw where all the sitcom aspect of this show came from. Wanda is apparently obsessed with sitcoms.
And it makes sense. Right. And I like the way they framed that in this episode because to me, it's always been kind of implied. And I'm glad they gave the confirmation because it helped thematically with just the story and why it's happening. Mm-hmm. But we always assumed that Wanda loved sitcoms because she spent so much time in captivity and it was her way of escaping. But I didn't honestly expect them to show us that, but they totally did. And they showed us that through the different time periods at which she was captured or imprisoned in some way. And I thought that was really cool. And it really helped with, like I said, the theme of the show and why she's doing what she's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked what they did with that. That was a cool tie back, but anyway, they watched the Dick Van Dyke Show, and then everything changes. Her life gets turned upside down. Parents die, and we see her with the bomb. And now we've known from Ultron and other stuff, that movie, that the bomb just never went off. And they found out later that it was defective or whatever, but they didn't know that at the time. So they were there for 2 days. But now we see that Wanda used a probability hex to actually stop the bomb. So Agatha kind of points out, she's like, all right, so what I'm seeing here is a baby witch who didn't know she had powers, used a small scale probability hex to stop this bomb. But like, how did you get to the point that we are now? So then we go to where she and Pietro got their powers from the Mind Stone. So we saw Loki's scepter, got to see that point of view of how that happened, which was not how I expected it to have happened. I kind of expected they had been doing some kind of, I realized that was experimentation, what we saw, but
something more long term.
Yeah, I was expecting something a little bit more, I don't know what to describe, chemical or something. I don't know. I wasn't expecting
where they were synthesizing somehow rather than just being chosen by the artifact.
Yeah, they literally were just presenting subjects in front of the stone, and it somehow chose her. But really interesting, and I think this plays into later in the episode too. But we see Wanda. Wanda sees in the Mind Stone what a lot of us are assuming are a future version of herself. It looked like the Scarlet Witch we all know from the comics. The helmet or the headpiece and everything. So a lot of people are still curious, like, what was that really? Like, Was that just a future version of her? Was that an alternative version of her?
So interesting about that, since we're already talking about it, I'll bring this up here. Agatha even says to her that, like, speaks of her as if she's a prophecy, and then calls her the Scarlet Witch as if it's foretold, not just a moniker that Wanda gives herself. So, like, it's a weird blending to where it almost feels like Wanda is now the MCU's Jean Grey, and Scarlet Witch is the Phoenix. I thought that was strange, but I kind of liked it. Because even the shot of the Scarlet Witch coming through the Mind Stone gave me huge Phoenix Force vibes with Jean from the X-Men movies.
Right. Yeah, I have noticed there have been a lot of parallels between Phoenix and Scarlet Witch at this point. And even in the comics, I think it'd be easy to kind of point out some similarities between the two characters. But yeah, very, very cool there.
I mean, honestly, if they're going to do that, if they are just going to say, like, we're going to use the Dark Phoenix storyline here with Wanda instead of Jean Grey, I don't see a downside, if I'm being 100% honest.
Right.
Because Dark Phoenix has been done to death. And honestly, Jean Grey is such an uninteresting character outside of Phoenix that, like, one of two things would happen. Either one, we don't get Jean Grey, which is good. Or two, they're forced to make Jean Grey interesting outside of Phoenix, which is also really good.
Right.
So it's kind of a win-win.
It's a win-win all around. Yeah, hopefully, I don't know. I don't think they even have to do the Dark Phoenix storyline with Wanda. I mean, I think Wanda I think what they're doing from House of M and stuff like that in this is going to be
And I'm not
fine.
saying they'll do specifically the Dark Phoenix, but it almost seems like they're touching on the themes of Dark Phoenix.
Right.
So that, like, that maybe this is their interpretation. Just kind of like how, I mean, Captain America 3 Civil War wasn't Civil War, but it touched on some of the similar themes of Civil War.
Right.
I would be okay with it if this was our Dark Phoenix adaptation.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Man, where was I? So we saw that testing, and Wanda was, and Agatha kind of points out, okay, so you were a young witch who had a one-on-one interaction with an Infinity Stone that super boosted your powers. Great. And she was like, I've got a theory, but I need more. And so they went to, right after Pietro had died, at the Avengers compound, and we have this great scene between Wanda and Vision. You presume before they were, like, really dating, but this was probably an earlier interaction that kind of eventually led to them becoming a thing, where basically she's grieving, Vision wants to help, and she's kind of like, you know, what is talking going to do to help me? And Vision has this great line that is, what is grief if not love persevering, which I think was just a really, really cool line to have in there, and really made me like Vision as a character. Not that I didn't already like him, but just it was like, wow, okay, that was cool.
This show has done a great job at giving Vision, like, giving legs to his personality, I guess. Because before it was like Age of Ultron Vision was like, wow, he's so powerful, and then it was like, what happened?
Right.
Like, and it's been nice seeing, like, even though he still kind of sucks, his character has gotten a lot of opportunity to be shown off, and I've always liked his character, like the role he plays, because he's basically the Marvel's Martian Manhunter. And it's been really nice seeing that energy that he brings to the team through this show. Right.
So they had that great moment there, and then it cuts to her infiltration of the shield, or the Shord base, which was interesting because, of course, Hayward told us that she broke in and stole Vision's body, but what we realized is that all was doctored. She came in, was allowed in, was shown Vision, and she didn't take the body. She said she didn't feel him there, so she left. So of course Hayward spun it like she took the property.
And in hindsight, it was really so obvious.
Right.
And like the closer it got to this point, I think at least myself and probably most people were kind of like, yeah, Hayward's full of it.
Yeah.
Because him even saying like she took Vision's body and revived him was just like, this sounds made up.
Right.
And so I thought they've handled a lot of those little points pretty well to where they've kept you guessing with minimal BSing, I guess, if you want to say that. Like, I still don't like Hayward's character, not just from a fact that he's an awful person, but he just seems like such a mustache twirling villain.
Right.
Like, unreasonably. That I don't know. It just depends on what they do with him. But yeah, I sorry, go ahead. I'm just kind of interjecting myself.
No, absolutely, that's fine. So going on, then she sees, and it's unclear. She gets back in her car, and there's an envelope that's opened that has a deed to a plot of land in Westview. I've seen a lot of people theorize that someone put that in her car, and like that she didn't notice it until then. I think I took it when I watched it that she had already had that. She had already read that, but she was going to get his body first, and was already on route to Westview.
Yeah. I think that Vision purchased that plot of land for them. And she got that deed out so that when she brought him into the car, she could have been like, hey, it's just like we wanted. We're going to go to that place that you bought. Mm-hmm. And she didn't expect to come back to the car by herself. And so when she looked at the deed, she was like, screw it. I'll just go anyway. It's what he would have wanted.
And it was so sad seeing, to grow old in together, whatever. That was heartbreaking. So anyway, it was that heartbreak that drove her to create the hex, which I kind of feel like is almost a BS answer. Like, I wish something more than just grief had prompted that.
Right.
Because, like, why did this not happen with Pietro? Like, wouldn't, and if she was capable of that the whole time, why? Well, I don't know.
The interesting thing about this, something about the way they shot her going through Westview. Mm-hmm. I said to Anna, I was like, these people all look really sad. Mm-hmm. And so to me, it kind of alluded to that maybe in that moment, her thought was, everyone here is as broken as I am. I'm going to fix this for everyone. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like she thought it was like she was doing a favor, or at least she thought, for everyone there. And this is real subtle, and I doubt this is their intention, but that's just the vibe that I got.
Yeah, no, it looked like every time you saw a Depression commercial when she drove through.
It did. And so to me, it was almost like she was saying, I'm going to save these people, but her execution was wrong, which is something that we theorized early on.
Right.
But it does seem just kind of like, it doesn't feel satisfying because honestly, the truth being that what we all have kind of suspected but didn't want to believe, being that it's just Agatha and Wanda, and probably not a higher authority of any kind. It probably feels unsatisfying because we've been expecting more. But I think if we had gone into this and not had the whole, well, it's Mephisto, well, there's Quicksilver from a different timeline, all that kind of stuff, that probably would have helped it feel more satisfying, because honestly, we shouldn't have expected anything else.
Right.
And I'm guilty of this too, because the show wasn't really deceptive about that being the case.
Right.
Like it really has been saying, like, it was Wanda all along.
Everything is Wanda all along.
Well, it's all Wanda. That's what Monica said, right?
I know. Wanda. I'm just playing. That's the song. Yeah. No, indeed. And who knows what's going to happen in this next episode. I am still holding on to there's somebody else pulling the strings, even for Agatha. And we may get just a snippet. We may get a Thanos in Avengers 1 level cameo. You know what I mean? At the very end. that I think is maybe going to be an overarching villain for the TV shows or something. Which I think would be really cool, but I don't know. I'm hopeful for that at least. But yeah, I think expectations can be a little bit more grounded going forward. But anyway,
I think it's hard. It would be really hard for them, considering just Agatha's portrayal in this episode. She very much seems like a self-interested agent of her own well-being. You know, she doesn't seem like she answers to anybody.
Right.
And I would love to see something more, but to me, this is the first time we have gotten this kind of discussion about magic in the MCU, to where she's just like, oh yeah, it was this type of magic that you used. Oh yeah, there's all this stuff. She literally called it a probability hex, all that kind of stuff. I love hard magics, which basically, in terms of power systems, are power systems that are defined, that have precise rules, and you can understand basically bending in Avatar. Right. I would say that's a form of hard magic, to where you understand how it works. Right. And up until this point, MCU has been very soft, to where people can just kind of do what they do. So I love when detail is given about power systems, and I love magic systems in different stories and lore. Right. And so this episode was just like, oh man, this is cool. Like I loved hearing them talk about magic that way for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope we get more of that as we go into even Doctor Strange 2 and some other stuff there. But to quickly just wrap up the surmise of the show, we come out of those flashbacks back to the dungeon. Agatha has her kids and is threatening them. And basically telling Wanda she's very dangerous. She's like, you have no idea how dangerous you are. You're a myth. You're not supposed to be real. You're using chaos magic, which makes you the Scarlet Witch, right? And that's the first time we hear her name in the MCU, which is very exciting. I'm still a little curious, like what that's all going to mean. Like, what does that all really connect to? But I'm sure we'll see that in the next episode. And then, of course, the post-credit scenes, we find out what Hayward has really been up to. Of course, he has the Vision's body because it was never stolen. And they use the energy coming off of the hex-affected items to basically bring Vision back online. And a lot of people are calling it the White Vision, which is from the comics. To me,
it just looked like they 3D printed Vision and they didn't have time to paint him.
Yeah, it looks like I would have called it Blue Vision or Tron Vision, but whatever. Still don't really know what all that's going to pull out to. Ultron, his actor, James Spader. James Spader. I knew it was Spader. I was going to say Jason Spader, but I knew that wasn't right. James Spader has a voice credit in this show. I am really kind of hoping that it is like he's voicing White Vision for whatever reason. I've been kind of on the bandwagon that Hayward is going to somehow be Ultron. That Ultron he found access to a synthezoid and like created Hayward and has just been hiding out. But you kind of brought up an interesting thing, Steven, that when Ultron created Vision's body, it's possible that he put a sleeper version of himself in there. That the Mind Stone.
I was even referring to when Vision blocked him out of the internet. He grabbed his head, and we know that Ultron can change. Like he can put his subconscious or whatever into things by touch.
Right.
So what if at that moment, even though he was blocked off the internet, he put in a Trojan of himself into Vision's body? Yeah.
I'm really excited to see what the ramifications of that are going to be. If he is Ultron, or even, I don't know what that all is going to mean. If he ends up being Ultron, I'm just very nervous for where this is going to go, because I feel like Ultron is a big enough villain that if they brought him back, he would have to be bigger than just a one-off moment in a TV show. But maybe that's what they do. I don't know.
Well, the thing about Ultron, in my experience with the comics, is that Ultron really can vary between he's a really big, all-encompassing threat, or he is very close to being a big all-encompassing threat, to where if Ultron was caught early,
then they can stop him early. Yeah.
they can stop him early, but the ramifications are like, if we don't stop this here, we're screwed. And sometimes Ultron gets to the point to where we didn't stop him, we're screwed.
Yeah.
So I could see them doing something like that. Honestly, that is the only way that I would like the Ultron angle. Because I've been pretty against the whole idea of Ultron being there because the show has been so focused on other aspects. It seemed like to put Ultron in there is kind of too many cooks, I guess.
Too many cooks.
But the way doing it that way would make sense.
Yeah.
And like, because even with Hayward, my whole thing was like, even if he like saying that he's not a synthezoid, because I refuse to believe that that's real. That just sounds bonkers to me.
Right.
I just haven't gotten there yet, I guess. So to me, the only outcome possible was that Hayward was actively trying to bring back Ultron, as if he was like Tony Stark, and Bruce Banner, two of the smartest people on the planet. They didn't have it right, but this guy right here, me, good old Hayward, I've got the ideas. Like, it just seemed like it made no sense for him to think that bringing back Ultron was a good idea. But for him to do it accidentally makes a lot of sense. Because Hayward does seem like the kind of guy who is blinded by his good intention.
Right. Yeah,
But
and that's possible. That's possible, absolutely possible. So I'm really curious to see what that next episode is going to bring there. Do you think Vision is going to get out of this show? Like, is he going to live to see the end of the show?
No.
What about Wanda's kids?
No.
Okay. I kind of
Personally,
feel
because
the same way all the way across. But
the way I see this is I see Wanda ending this show in a very empowering place, to where she realizes that she's so much more than she thought. And I see what hopefully I don't think I'd be too against it, because they've, again, kind of that thing of like taking a step back. It really does seem like we could be heading towards Wanda is the villain, like the big villain that we're headed towards. But to me, I think I'm more so hoping that this ends with Wanda being like, wow, I'm a really powerful sorceress. I need to figure out more about this. And she looks to Strange for mentorship.
yeah.
And Strange taking her under his wing, kind of like in Avengers versus X-Men. The big plot there was Cyclops's granddaughter from the future. It was Cable's daughter that he raised in the future, brought back in time. Cyclops is Cable's father, so Cyclops' foster granddaughter. He was training her because she was foretold to be the next host of the Phoenix. So he took her under his wing and was training her because she was meant for great things.
Right.
I kind of want that relationship between Strange and Wanda, to where, or even an Xavier Jean Grey relationship, if you will, to where the mentor who is fully capable, fully aware that his mentee is much more powerful than him, but all they lack is control.
Right.
I like that idea between the two of them. But also, like, I don't know, where's Doctor Strange at this point? Is he the Sorcerer Supreme? We don't know. So
Right.
it just depends. That's where I think I want them to go with it, to where Wanda and Strange become linked, and hopefully not through him being like, hey, you need to be dealt with. I am the sorcerer that's going to deal with you. I hope it's not an antagonistic
Adversary
kind of
way. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it's Wanda, let me help you, someone needs to train you
Yeah.
kind of way.
I hope he shows up somewhere at the
I
end
could
of the
totally
show.
see a cameo.
Yeah.
I really could, as a post-credits cameo. Like her even showing up at the Sanctum, like opening the door and he's there. Like, I could totally see that happening.
That would be cool. That would be a really, really
Yeah,
cool way to make that happen. So
it would.
anyway, well, it's gonna be good. I'm loving this show, and I can't wait to see where it ends. We've only got one more episode, and then a weekend off, and then it'll be Falcon Winter Soldier. So a lot of exciting stuff.
I'm excited about that one.
Mm-hmm. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of Chortle Cast. We do hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, there's a couple things you can do to help us out. Number one, if you're watching on YouTube, you're already at chortlegames.com. You can like this video, share it with your friends, leave us a comment, all that good stuff. If you're watching on Facebook, you're at Chortle Games on Facebook, and you can also like, share, and follow the page there. That's where we air the podcast. And then, of course, if you're a podcast listener, you're listening through Apple Podcasts, we'd love it if you could leave us a review. That helps people find the show and get to join in all our fun shenanigans. If you don't want to participate on any of those platforms, we also live stream throughout the week on Twitter, which is at Chortle Games on Twitter, and on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Chortle_games. So lots of places you can check us out. Of course, the podcast airs every Monday at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time, which is where you are now if you're watching live. But we live stream throughout the week. Typically, we live stream on Thursday nights, Friday nights, and Saturday nights. Of course, we're doing a forward-compatible review of Crysis 2 right now.
It's still happening.
Still happening.
We're still in it.
So Steven is streaming in some extra time slots throughout the week, covering that game for review. So be sure to subscribe or follow along. You can join our Discord, which you can get to in the description of this video. Or if you go to chortlegames.com, in our banner, you'll see the Discord app, and you can get to us from there. But anyway, you can watch those live streams. We let you know when we're going live in our Discord, and we kind of live stream to all of our sources of like Twitter and Twitch. So pretty much if you follow us anywhere, you'll see when we go live. But yeah, we're going to try to do a Rogue Hero stream this week. But we're kind of up in the air on everything else. So if there's something you want to see, be sure to let us know in the comments. But yeah, Steven,
Expect more Crysis.
Expect more Crysis this week. Steven is going to wrap up that forward compatible.
It needs to be done, and I've been very distracted by all of the good things happening, like Rogue Heroes, the Outriders demo. And this is my last week to make a big move in finishing forward compatible for this game before a lot more good stuff happens. Because next week, Watch Dogs Legion Online comes out.
Mm-hmm.
The week after that, Hawkeye comes out on the Avengers. The week after that, I'm going on vacation. So don't expect to see me that week. And then the week after that, literally the day after we get back from vacation, Outriders launches. So got a lot of distractions headed my way. I need to buckle down and get to it.
A lot of good, fun distractions. So
Yes.
Anyway, well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We will see you in the streams this week. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.